Hey, welcome in, everyone. The Uncanny JMen are back to discuss She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Episode 3. Now, a warning, there will be spoilers for She-Hulk, Episodes 1, 2, and 3. So if you have not seen those episodes yet, go watch those. They're not long episodes, they're about half an hour each. Then come back and watch our video. With that, let's dive right in. So I just got to say, this episode answered the question that has been on everybody's mind. Did Wong ever work at Target? And we now know the answer is yes.
Worked at Target.
Yeah. So there was when they were trying to find Wong, his
resume on the LinkedIn equivalent
was there, and it had Sorcerer Supreme at Carmartage for current. It had Librarian for 11 years, and then it had like associate at Target or something like that for 9 years. And that was his last 3 jobs. So talk about moving up the ladder.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't even notice that, and I've paused the screen on so many things during this show.
It looks like whenever there's a lot of words, I've started pausing and just be like, okay, what joke are they talking about this time?
Like briefly, there was when there was like news reporters, and it flashed over to U Screen, so not YouTube, U Screen. And one of the videos I felt like was poking fun at kind of what we do with I believe it was titled, I wrote it down because I thought it was funny. She-Hulk, not really a Hulk theory. It was a video, and I was like, is that should I make that video?
Yeah, I'm tempted. I'm sure we could develop a theory, find some way to justify that.
Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah. And I also liked Titania was in for like 3 minutes of one episode thus far, but she keeps popping up on the news articles. Whenever they talk about anything about She-Hulk, there's like the big title of what they're talking about, and then in small print underneath, some comment about Titania. She's clearly a big deal in the superhero world, but we've never heard of her. There's a headline here that said, superpowered influencer Titania speaks out about latest legal troubles. Confident her legal team will make it go away. That is what's fun about the show, is the little details. I am enjoying the little subtle jokes that they're not putting right out in front of you. They're not pushing them. They're hiding them and letting you find them. That is fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to the actual show.
I mean, so one thing that's great is that we picked the show up. The last thing that happened in episode 2 was the footage of Abomination fighting in the ring against Wong. Mm-hmm. And it picks right up with her charging into the jail, the prison there, and being like, you ruined it all. What was this? One thing that's kind of irksome to me about this trial with Emil is that it feels like Emil's just giving her all of the answers to being a lawyer instead of her being a good lawyer. Mm-hmm. That's rubbing me a little bit of the wrong way because she's supposed to be a really good lawyer. And it feels like he's just like, no, I was forced to leave. She's like, oh, you were forced to leave? He's like, yeah, Wong did it. And he would testify that like it felt a little weird to me that she didn't really put together any defense. That's not just what Emil told her.
Yeah. On the one hand, it feels like we're done with Emil Blonsky. It feels like they've wrapped that up and now she's moving on to other things. But on the other hand, there's so much suspicious about that whole situation. I agree. It felt like he was leading her on to the conclusion he wanted her to reach. Like, I don't fully trust him. I like that he won because you want to see Jennifer Walters win in her first case as the She-Hulk leading the superhero law division. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons to believe that, yeah, he can, like, him being released can be justified. I actually was planning, I thought of doing a theory video of where I would go with the case if I were defending Emil Blonsky. And it was a completely different direction than they ended up going. I was going to point to the fact that the Hulk had rampaged early and eventually became a superhero. Why can't Emil Blonsky follow the same path? I was going to go on that route. But now the case is over. I didn't expect it to end this episode. So that theory video isn't happening. But the thing is, she could have developed a case on her own. But yeah, I agree. It seems like Emil Blonsky had an idea of how he wanted this to go and was dictating it.
Yep.
It felt just very suspicious to me. I also felt like Wong felt suspicious. He's a rule follower. Like in all the Doctor Strange movies, Doctor Strange is the one that is willing to break the rules, to dabble in the areas that are forbidden. And Wong is the rule follower. He's the one who became Sorcerer Supreme because he is the leader. He's the one that kind of, I don't know, just he keeps things in line. And yet, I don't know.
He does, but he is also a prankster and jokester on top of a rule follower. And so it definitely does his own thing. So I didn't feel like it was too out of character or anything for Wong. But the whole time I was like, Wong, you're admitting to an illegal act. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm glad they touched on that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'm like, are they going to arrest Wong now? Because they kind of should. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see if that comes up again, anything about that. But I do totally agree.
Speaking of Wong, though, two things. One is we had another fourth wall break with She-Hulk saying, this isn't a show of all cameos, but we know that it is. Like Emil, like just like you said, Emil Blonsky being in it, Hulk being in it, Wong being in it. We know Daredevil's going to be in it. Like it feels like there's just a lot of cameos.
Yeah.
It is her show. There's a lot of cameos. And the other thing that I wrote down was the paralegal was like, oh, I'll get Wong. I sent him a thirst trap picture of me with the books. And in the after credits, you actually see it's just her holding a book with a bunch of books behind her. So it's just like the books are the thirst trap. And he shows up. So it worked.
Yeah. He's a librarian. He loves his books.
He loves his books.
And it does say the fourth wall breaks of her turning and talking directly to the camera. They're doing a really good job with that. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, but I'm really loving that part of the show. And it is her story. Yeah, she is the main character. Despite all of these cameos, she's the main character. She's letting it be known through these fourth wall breaks that she is the one telling us this story. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the humor of those moments where she's talking to us. She doesn't have all the information. She doesn't know everything. She mentioned about, this isn't a show of all cameos. Because from her point of view, it's not. But she didn't mention Daredevil. She did at that point, she doesn't know he's coming. So it is interesting.
I mean, also speaking of cameos, we got a really, really, really quick cameo from a character known from the comic books but not well known otherwise. So Mallory Book, when what's his name, Bukowski is in the office and she first comes in and is talking, and then Mallory Book sticks her head in briefly. Mallory Book is from the comics and is basically Jen Walter's biggest rival when it comes to the legal world, and even so far as becoming kind of a villain, where she like tries to discredit and take down She-Hulk and Jennifer Walters. So interesting that they throw that in there. Is that a one-off and she's gone, or is she planned to be in more later, or is she actually working with the Wrecking Crew that we see later in it? I don't know if that's just how they introduced her to be more, or if that was really just kind of like, hey, look, here's a person.
Yeah, I feel like I'm expecting her to be something later on, that she's going to show up again later on in some way. She didn't really add anything to that scene, unless they like wanted to give more evidence to how Bukowski is
terrible.
Yeah, that's a good word. I was trying to think of a word, but all the words that came to my mind you really can't use on YouTube. So if they were trying to lend more credence, but I feel like they already secured the view of him. So I feel like they didn't need another character to step on to do that. So I do feel like she's probably going to show up again later in some way. But it could just be another cameo. They do seem to enjoy doing that. Yeah.
But I mean, so with Bukowski, he's back in it again. Like we established his character with being on the legal team that She-Hulk used to be on. She's no longer with that legal team. She's with a new one. What's interesting is that he didn't go to his own legal team.
Well, he works for the district attorney. So I don't think they would handle cases like the one that he is
okay.
he was filing.
But what's important is so it's a superhuman case because She-Hulk and Pug handle superhuman cases. In the after credit scene, which is not like a scene that matters that much, but what I found interesting was that Megan the Stallion was signing to be represented by Jen, which either means that Megan the Stallion has superpowers or has a case with a superpowered individual.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the end of that. That's definitely the end of that. It's just a joke that they were doing at the end. But the fact that she'd be signing papers to be represented by Jen, does make is this confirm Megan the Stallion has superpowers? I don't know.
I don't know. It's confirming that she's a part of the MCU and involved with superpowers in some way. Yeah, definitely.
Although honestly, the defamation from the light elf shapeshifter pretending to be her, she can now claim that like anything that happened, like bad happened to her in the past, was the light elf and sue and kind of clear her name for anything if there was anything in the MCU.
Yeah, that could be the lawsuit. That could be why she's getting Jennifer Walters to go after the light elf for the defamation.
Yeah,
definitely could be something like that. Yeah, they're probably not going to pursue that anymore.
And I loved in the courtroom. This is just one of those little fun jokes, but like the Thor's inspirational speeches do not
are not admissible in court.
Are not admissible in court.
Yeah.
What I wonder, I forget where that speech was made. Was that a speech that someone should know was made?
I don't think so. But I guess they do. It's amazing how much
the light elf would know, but with the court judge, because the light elf was with Asgard,
right?
So he would have said it while the light elf was there. But why would the judge? Maybe the judge doesn't know it, but he does. He should have.
Yeah, he said. Yeah,
he name dropped Thor. The light elf didn't, so he would have to know too.
Yeah,
unless that's the tagline of New Asgard or something like that, which is a tourist location now. So
it is. I mean, Scott Lang has a podcast where he's spilling the beans on the superheroes. Maybe he interviewed Thor or someone else from New Asgard, and they were able to get that information there. They now have a way from Miss Marvel that we now know there is a way to explain how people know about the superheroes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the main part of this episode, Emil's trial.
Yes.
We spend a decent amount of time on it, and there's some things I really love about that trial. One is we do actually get to see his 7 soulmates. Very culty vibes off of them all wearing the exact same outfit and like kind of like a commune style, a little sketchy feeling to me. I mean, 7 soulmates from Pen Pal is a little sketchy to start off with, kind of, but that was a little sketchy. But I love all of the things that he did for the prison with all the different people who are testifying. I love the line that the library is a quiet place that's no longer just to shiv people, or like it's not just a quiet place to shiv people anymore. Mm-hmm. And then also about making toilet kombucha instead of making toilet wine. Just simple, funny little things to throw in there. It didn't take a whole lot of time to make those jokes, but it was good.
Yeah, that whole case just seemed over the top. The people with how they were describing him, it's like, has he been running this prison? Like the guard who was crying because he saved his marriage, or however it went, like
saved him from a marriage.
Saved him from his marriage. It's just like, this is unreasonable level of like good track record.
He's been in jail for 15 years.
He has, so he is the veteran there. Although probably not all of that location, as I don't think that location has been around for 15 years. But yeah, he is the veteran. But then even when he transformed and the board were surprised and screaming, they screamed way longer than they should have. They knew who they were dealing with here. He transformed. He's like, "Look, I'm okay. I'm moving my shoes. I can control." And they're still, ah! It was just way over the top. Part of the humor, I guess. It was very interesting.
Yeah. One thing I had to look up, I'll admit, during the trial, I had to look up what kumite is when
Okay.
Wong brings up, do you know what kumite is? And then it cuts and goes to something else. And I was like, no, I don't. What is that? So I looked it up. It just is a word for sparring and like for like karate, like some kung fu style. That just is a word for sparring.
Okay, gotcha.
So I wanted to point that out only because I was like, I don't know what that means.
I didn't. I just let it go. But it's good to know. Yeah.
But yeah, Abomination's transformation, that was very interesting because unlike every other Hulk, he was naked, fully naked when he transformed. All his clothes ripped off of him, and
He didn't have the stretchy pants.
unfortunate. He does not have stretchy pants.
I mean, I went back and I rewatched The Incredible Hulk just the other day, just to review, because I was like, it's been a while since I've watched that one. Let me watch and see how Emil Blonsky is throughout that movie. One thing I noticed is just how often Bruce Banner buys stretchy pants. He is constantly looking for really big, really stretchy pants for him to wear underneath his normal pants.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't realize that movie kind of explains it, and Emil Blonsky apparently has not come up with that strategy to wear the big stretchy pants.
Nope. I feel like Abomination might look a little weird now, having pants on.
Yeah, maybe.
But most likely, I'm guessing that if this is the end of Abomination or Emil Blonsky in this show, that's most likely we're going to see him again for Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
That's if we don't see him again here. If we see him more, then maybe he's not going to be in Thunderbolts. But I feel like if he's released and has a collar, like an inhibitor collar on,
wristband, like
or something, I imagine that at some point government will show up and say, hey, you want to be a part of this team, we'll take off your inhibitor, you can become Abomination again, you've shown that you can transform. And that's why we end up seeing him more, and this is kind of just setting that up while we get to a bigger point for the rest of She-Hulk.
Yeah, I was trying to watch Blonsky's reaction when the conditions were laid out, and he seemed very happy when they gave him his release. And when they said that he's banned from being Abomination again, he stopped nodding and just kind of like looked interested, like, huh. And then saying about the inhibitor, it's like he was in thought. And then Jennifer Walter says thank you to them, and he turns, he says, thank you, Jen. And like, so he moved on. But it was interesting that he was nodding about being released, and then it was, here are the conditions, and he was like, I'm not going to nod to this.
Well, his 7 pen pals all loved the transformation.
Yes, they were cheering when he transformed, yes.
He's not able to transform him. They could goad him into trying to transform again. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see him again. I wouldn't be surprised if we did. Which reminds me, so thank you to those who reached out to us after our last discussion, that there are 9 episodes, not 6.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
I do not think we're halfway through a season.
No, I'm so much better about being a third of the way through the season than halfway through the season.
That is definitely better. Half-hour shows instead of an hour, but 9 is certainly better than 6.
Yeah. But that does leave a lot of space for Emil Blonsky to return if the show decides to go that route. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and it was found that he had a little something else up his sleeve in the midst of all this. But if not, I think we're going to see him again, one way or another, whether it's in She-Hulk or the Thunderbolts, or the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that I want to talk about briefly before I talk about what I think is the biggest point to talk about.
All
So
right.
one is I felt like there was a Fantastic Four reference at one scene. So this is me stretching. Trust me, this is a stretch. I know it's a
Fetching? I
didn't
like
even
it.
intend that. So when Jen is leaving after the trial with Emil, there's a bunch of news reporters. One of the trucks has a circle with a 6 in it, but it's definitely the Fantastic Four style writing and everything. I don't think they intended that, but it was very much like, to me, I was like, is that Fantastic Four? Oh, no, it's a 6.
Hmm.
It still very much looks like a Fantastic Four symbol, but with a 6 instead.
Hey, at
Um,
this point, we want the Fantastic Four so much, we will imagine them everywhere.
I'm pretty sure there was a stretchy arm coming out. No.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was going back to Bukowski's the trial with Bukowski, where then she shows up to as like a character witness. The joy in Jen's voice, being able to freely talk in the court, recorded
Hmm.
about how horrible Bukowski is and how she like how despicable and stupid he is, and the amount of joy she has saying it. I just got found that kind of funny.
That was. Yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah, it is
um,
funny because they have the scenes in the courtroom. So there are two different court cases going on here, and we see little bits of each one, and then we see the verdicts. We see other like hero related stuff of her juggling with being a hero, little bits and pieces, but nothing big. I think I think I've decided in my mind what show this is.
okay.
So we were discussing last week: is this a superhero show? Is this a legal drama? What is the show? I don't think it's either. I think it's just a parody show. They joke about legal proceedings. They joke about being a superhero, but it's so far not really a full superhero show. We don't have the big bad revealed fully yet. Possibly a hint at the end of this episode, but honestly, if this was a 3 episode season, they wrap things up pretty well. A little cliffhanger, I guess, at the end for next season, but they could have wrapped it up here. But the key to these first 3 episodes has been the jokes about being a superhero, being a person with superpowers, being a lawyer in a superhero world. So it was just kind of getting a glimpse of life in a superhero world. So for me, it's not a superhero show and it's not a legal drama. It's a parody show. That's what I'm
Okay.
settling with for now. We'll see after next week. Yeah.
I feel like the legal elements are tenuous at best for how accurate it is to legal system. So definitely not a legal show. I will agree with
Yeah.
you there. um, yeah, it's this. I felt like this is a very interesting episode. This I felt like this episode hit its stride more than the other ones did. I really liked this one, how they handled everything. Jumping between some legal, some not, like having Wong in it or different characters, setting up everything. And I feel like they really did set up the rest of the season, including not who the big bad is, but the goal of the big bad. And it's something that we kind of talked about in our last discussion video, because we brought up about Jen getting her powers from Bruce's blood. And now we have the Wrecking Crew, who's, I guess, robbed a Asgardian construction worker for their special weapons of construction. Uh,
Glowing helmet, a glowing crowbar. It's just essentially construction equipment that glows.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's Asgard MO. Make it glow. It's Asgardian.
Yeah.
Um, but what was interesting was that they were 100% trying to get Hulk blood
Yeah.
for someone. They said, talking about like, oh, we'll have to tell our boss that we were not successful because they couldn't penetrate her skin with a needle to get her blood when she's in Hulk form. But she's not always in Hulk form.
No.
I feel like we may see her blood taken in human form at some point, and then she's going to have to fight against a Hulkified person.
Yeah. I think that she mentioned about a little earlier in the episode, so towards the end, that Bukowski gave her an idea we'll keep that between us. And that idea, I think, very clearly was for her to have an inhibitor.
Yep.
That she doesn't have to worry about the She-Hulk anymore. Well, then we cut to the Wrecking Crew trying to take her blood, and like honestly, the pieces just fit together too well that yeah, she's gonna get herself an inhibitor so she can move on and move away from being the She-Hulk. They're gonna get her blood, and she's gonna have to abandon the inhibitor and try and take back what was given to someone else.
My guesses, this is just my shot in the dark theory of what's going to happen, how the rest of the series is going to progress for this season, is Mallory Book is a bad guy. She's pulling strings and was the one to get the Wrecking Crew, but she also represents Titania, which is why she's pulling the strings. I'm guessing that yes, that's what's going to happen. She's going to have an inhibitor. Blood gets taken. They're going to use the blood to manufacture a serum for Titania to make her more powerful, because she's already strong, but obviously got her butt kicked by She-Hulk. To make her actually go up against She-Hulk, enhancing her further with Hulk blood and maybe her superpower stuff allows her to process it a little bit better than other people, to allow her to just be stronger. And that's where you get that Hulkified person able to fight She-Hulk. That's not someone that it'd be someone that they've already kind of started setting up. We already have the pieces and people in place to make all of these things. So I could really see that being the progression to inhibitor, blood taken, Titania gets it, becomes more powerful, and that's where we actually get a fight scene.
It could be. Yeah, I can see that. My guess had been that Titania at some point was going to align herself with She-Hulk, and the two of them were going to. That Titania was going to seem like the villain throughout, but then was going to align with She-Hulk. They're going to team up against some bigger boss. The thing is, Titania hasn't been in it very much, so I feel like if they did end up going with a redemption arc, they were really going to have to pack her in later on to get to that point where a redemption arc would make any sense. So I am thinking that yeah, your theory that Titania being the Hulk at the end that she has to fight very well could be, or if not a Hulk, even just stronger. But
yeah, I don't think she's going to be Hulkified and that she'll turn green or anything. I think she's just going to be even stronger due to Hulk blood being used.
Yeah. However they end up doing that, yeah, having the fairer fight with Titania still remaining the villain. I can see that. Do you have any guesses as to who the boss is, or are you just thinking it's the other lawyer from the superhuman law division?
It's possible. So I have guesses, but they're again shot in the dark right now. So let's say that Mallory Book is working on behalf of someone else, that she just is representing Titania and therefore working in some ways that way to discredit Jen and everything. But who's paying the bill?
Yeah.
Right now, Marvel has started setting up a character again that would make sense to be the one pulling more strings. That'd be Kingpin.
Okay.
So we know Daredevil is coming into the show at some point. It kind of would make sense that his biggest rival, Kingpin, is the one pulling strings to make it easier for superheroes to be discredited, to be taken down, so he has more free reign to do what he needs to do. So I could see that being just a quick cameo thing towards the end of being like, here's who's pulling the string, it's Kingpin.
It could be. So I had two thoughts. And one is kind of simple. So you were saying about that we know Daredevil's going to be in this. So bringing back another one from the Daredevil show. Mine's kind of similar. We have Emil Blonsky was in this. They could bring someone back from the Incredible Hulk. Mr. Blue. The character Mr. Blue, the way he ended in the Incredible Hulk was that he was taking Bruce's blood and wanted to develop it more. Wanted to be able to stand on that research and create more Hulks. He's kind of forced into giving it to the Abomination, or to Emil Blonsky to make him Abomination. And then Emil Blonsky destroys all the rest of the blood, destroys all the rest of the research, leaves him on the ground with some of the blood dripping into a cut on his head.
Where he becomes leader, leader.
That's the thought, but he's never returned. So this could be
Interesting.
his return too.
I would absolutely love that.
Oh yeah, I would too. So finally, like he's been watching Bruce, waiting for Bruce to slip up. Bruce becomes smart Hulk. He never got his chance to get the blood again. But Jen Walters doesn't know him. Jen Walters wants to be human
Oh, I like
and has the blood.
that better than Kingpin because they set up an Incredible Hulk 2 with Mr. Blue. And to have that come to fruition this far down the road would be beautiful.
It would.
That is something very MCU. They can totally do that. I mean, Emil Blonsky's in this. They have the power to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
That'd be so good. Setting up leader for the next round or like a fight or something down the road would be real cool. I don't think he'll be like fought this season.
Right.
But setting him up for the future.
Pulling the strings behind the curtain, that type of role. And the other one that immediately came to mind for me, the Power Broker. I'm not going to say the Power Broker's real name, because that's a spoiler for a different show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, but the Power Broker, the Power Broker's whole thing is trying to have control over superpowers. It makes sense the Power Broker would want Jen Walters' blood. So that is just another possibility that came to mind. I don't think they're going to go that route because that's already tied up from another show. I don't think they're going to go that way in this show, but it is another possibility that came to mind.
Yeah, I really like the leader.
Yeah,
that would be so awesome.
It'd be fun, and it makes this more of. This is already a little bit of a kind of sequel playing off of or expanding on what was built up in the Incredible Hulk. Finally expanding on that for the first time in 15 years or whatever it's been. So if they continue that, it'd be kind of nice.
See, this is also with Hulk leaving the world planet, going somewhere else, especially if World War Hulk is on the horizon. There's a character that I would love to see eventually, and that's Maestro, which is a version of Hulk when he gets older, wiser, everything, but he's also bad. I could see the MCU kind of doing a play on that if Leader is to create his own Hulk, and that created Hulk is like a clone of Bruce. That way we still have Bruce being strong Hulk or smart Hulk or savage Hulk or every kind of Hulk version that there's been of him, and then having Maestro be another Hulk version that then is created by Leader if he has the blood. I don't know. Now I'm going down this rabbit hole of all these things that could happen from the comics that come in and do all these things. So this is all I'm going to be thinking about tonight.
You're welcome.
But we are getting close on time here, so let's do a wrap up. How do you feel this episode went?
So this is my favorite of the 3 episodes thus far. I feel like the first 2, I just had too many questions. I wasn't sure where the show was going. This one I enjoyed more. There's still points in it that's just not my type of humor, but I'm okay overlooking those because there's other points that I'm really enjoying. So I do feel like the show is hitting its stride a little better in this 3rd episode. So I enjoyed this one a little more. I have no idea where it's going from here because we have 6 episodes left. They wrapped up the big case that they were moving into last episode. We don't know who the villain is. So, honestly, I have absolutely no idea how they're going to start the next episode, where they're going to go from there. So there's just still a lot of questions with how the show is. The episodes aren't as tied together as a lot of the other shows have been. But I did enjoy it more than the first 2 episodes. I feel like it's hitting its stride. So what do you think?
I agree. The 3rd episode is my favorite so far by a large margin. The way I feel like the first 2 episodes went is I wish that they were one episode, 1 hour-long episode that was all the exposition, because I feel like that's really what the first 2 episodes were. It was setting up characters, motivations, this Emil Blonsky story. Granted, it's then immediately solved episode 3, which would be if those 2 are combined, this would have been the 2nd episode, basically. But I feel like I really feel like this is them just setting up for Thunderbolts and just kind of have this as a start. get him released on bail, whatever, parole, get him on parole so that they can deal with that in Thunderbolts, but have the rest continue from there. So treating the first 2 episodes kind of like one episode that's just exposition heavy. This episode really took that and was able to do a lot with it. I thought this was a fantastic episode. It's making me like the She-Hulk show so far a lot more than I did previously.
Good.
So I'm excited for what they're going to do next.
Yeah, I'm excited for next week as well. We'll see how the show continues from here. So that's what we've got for today. What do you guys think? Where do you think the show's going? If you have any theories you want to share with us, let us know in the comments. We would love to read them. As always, hit the like button if you enjoyed this discussion. Subscribe if you want to see more of these discussions. We do them every week. We also have theory videos that come out about once a week. So subscribe if you want to see those. And as always, thanks for watching.